I'm bringing you a drawing video on Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia. So for this composition, I wanted to concentrate on Alm's army in particular, and I like the designs that Hidari did for the remake of Fire Emblem Gaiden, but I also do like how different the original colors are in that game. So I wanted to keep, or I just wanted to compare mostly these color schemes, and also like I just wanted to see these new designs with the old color schemes integrated. Later on I want to do some of these portraits based on the designs that were made for Fire Emblem Gaiden. I don't really know, I can't remember the name of that art book, but there was an art book that had artworks for characters in Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon, Fire Emblem Gaiden, and Fire Emblem Mystery of the Emblem. And it was all done in the same style. All of those characters are related because they're all living in the same time period, just in different continents, Valentia and Arcanea being close to each other, close enough at least that you can get by boat. I really like that in the last, or once you finish the story for Fire Emblem Shadows of Valentia, I can't remember the name of the dungeon in particular. I remember it was, and this is spoiler warning if you haven't actually played the end of the post game, and actually because spoiler warning starts now. This is when we learn about Grima's past and the philosopher. Nah, it wasn't a philosopher. It was an alchemist. I'm pretty sure, the alchemist that essentially created Grima using the blood of Naga, or maybe not even the blood of Naga, just the blood of a divine dragon, and doing some dark science. And I really loved that because it kind of like talked and went into the process of like magical experiments, so like science and magic combined. It reminded me of Muriel, who loves to do science experiments, but she's also a mage, and she talks about like the way that a flame changes depending. I honestly don't remember what was her experiment in her support where her flame was changing from green to a different color to blue, but in chemistry you can do that by applying a flame to different types of chemicals. And I think that it's really interesting to see chemistry in this magical context, just because for someone living in a world with magic, I think that it would be really hard to make a distinction between science and magic. So, besides that, when you read, or when you were reading the going through all of the levels in the dungeon, the Fornius, right? His name is Fornius. And what was the name of Thebes Labyrinth? Okay, sorry, I didn't just remember that. I looked it up, but yeah, when you're reading the slabs in Thebes Labyrinth, you don't only pick up on the fact that Grima has like a magical origin. He doesn't really. He is somehow related to divinity, but he's also man-made in a way. It says in the slabs in Thebes Labyrinth, placed on a cadaver, thanatophages set down roots and assert control. And that line right there, I find it really interesting, just because phages is a scientific term. Phages are microbes, and they compete with bacteria. They are like just microorganisms that we weren't definitely not aware of back at that time. And I like to see how they try to integrate this scientific vernacular and put the say like the divine dragon's blood was taken, and it makes sense, in a world where there is divine influences. Science still applies. There's still physics. There's still other stuff going on, and there's underlying reasons for everything. I think talking about scientists living in these times is really interesting, just because there are people that aren't necessarily tied to a belief system. They're trying to find the reason behind things, and they're using science and observation to realize those things. And in a way, sure, that led to the creation of Grima, but that's because Fornius had like intentions to create a perfect being, and he wanted to live forever, and that's like not what science is for. Sure, science is for the betterment of humanity, and sure, there are scientists that are trying to crack the code of like anti-aging and things like that, but at the same time, they're just trying to end suffering. I think that's what it comes down to. Scientists work on a problem by problem basis. They will look at what their research is in relation to, not at the overall applications in the long run, because when you're thinking about scientific research, you have to think about the specific implications of what you're doing. It just really intrigues me to see this type of language being used in a Fire Emblem game. I never thought that I would see something phages come up, Thanatophages. I wonder if they're real. Let me look them up. Yeah, totally. Thanatophages are organisms that obtain nutrients by consuming decomposing dead plant biomass. So thanato must mean consumes dead things. Let me look up thanato. An undignified and painful death due to postponement of a merciful death. Oh, cool. Maybe that's why Thanatos is called Thanatos. But yeah. Thanatophages. That's fitting. But yeah, I think that the people at Intelligent Systems do a lot of good work with etymology and looking up just interesting words to use for whatever it is that they're referencing in history, in culture, in science. But anyways, I also wanted to draw these characters in a style that was similar to the GBA portraits. In particular, the mini portraits, that when you're on the battlefield and you're going, you select over a character, you can see like a smaller version of their portrait. That's kind of like how I did their positioning. There are a few of the portraits in the GBA games that are like in profile, like in the Tatiana and Zeke ones in Fire Emblem Gaiden. I think in the one I'm thinking about in the GBA games is Elfin. Is looking to the side. I think that's his name. I could be wrong. He's the really long blonde hair and beautiful harp or whatever. But anyways, I wanted to also do Celica's army, and I'm going to do that one next. It might not necessarily be my next upload, but it'll be the next one I do as of this recording. And I just want to talk over these color schemes at first, because these original color schemes are so much more bright. And if you see when I switch between the first one and the new one and the original color scheme, the color schemes from the actual games, it's just the life is getting sucked out of the newer designs because they're so more muted, and the colors in the original sprites are way more saturated. And I like the saturation. It's very 80s anime. I really do like the way that you can see a progression in stylistic choices when it comes to Fire Emblem. So yeah, I really do like Silk has a really cool color scheme before and after. I think that Hidari did a really good job in translating these designs and making them more adaptable to our current times. I made up Effie's colors, not Effie, Faye, or Effie in Japanese. Faye's colors, and later on when I do Celica's army, I'll make up Conrad's colors, but they're pretty easy just because she has pretty brown color tones, and I just took them from other places. I just try not to really go too far. I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 colors. I don't know if that was too much, but I think that's fine. I really something that I liked about the original designs, or when Fire Emblem Echoes was first announced, I was really excited to see the interpretation of the original designs, because they were all really pretty simplistic. When you I think that the one that stood out to me the most when I was first getting into it was Matilda's design, just because she had a really nice color scheme. She had the yellow hair and or like really light yellow that went really nicely and complemented nicely with the light blue hair, not light blue hair, light blue um, wardrobe with the light blonde hair. It looked really nice. It was really cute and pastel, and I think there was a little bit of pink with polka dot in there. I can't really remember, but it was really really a treat, and I liked the original designs for the three villagers that Alm had, Greg, Tobin, and Cliff. Cliff looked a lot like Stahl in his original design. He looked like just a really passive, um, lovable guy that just liked to sleep and be kind. So I thought that Cliff was gonna end up being kind of the same type of character as Stahl, and he ended up being a complete bitch. And I really appreciated that because he still ended up having the cutest design, and it's not a surprise that he was one of the far-fetched heroes for Fire Emblem. Heroes, the second far-fetched heroes in year two. I think he was one of those, along with Loki, and slips who the third one was. I think we only had three that year. But anyways, and as of recording this right now, the third Far-Fetched Heroes, or the Heroes banner based off of popular choices from the Choose Your Legends Bowl, hasn't been uploaded, but recently we just got the Leaf banner, and I'm really excited about that. Chupi was right about the Silver Bow. Yeah, he predicted that one. I can totally say that. But yeah. One of the things that I really do enjoy about Fire Emblem is all of the different types of character designs, and it's something that's always brought me towards the franchise since I was a child. I mean, the way that I was introduced to Fire Emblem was Super Smash Bros. Melee. The lineup of characters obviously introduced me to Marth and Roy, but it also introduced me to all of the characters in their games. I would get on Serenus Forest and just look at the character galleries. I would get on just anywhere that I could find just all of the images of them. Even before I knew what Fire Emblem was, I remember I saw a crossover that some artist did, and it was Naruto characters in Fire Emblem classes. And that I think was actually my first ever exposure to Fire Emblem, and it was through the art of Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, and those designs in particular really have always resonated with me because they're one of the most, or probably the earliest ones I was ever exposed to, but also Ephraim was the first lord in Fire Emblem that I was like, oh my god, he's so cool. And I did a bunch of fan art of Ephraim as a kid. I also did fan art of Alm, actually, because I looked through all of the Fire Emblem game casts, and I thought it was really interesting that Alm had blue hair and green hair in two different artworks. So when I would draw Alm, I would draw him with blue hair and green streaks to kind of allude to that. What else? I really love Luthier's hair in the new design. Faye was really tough to get right. I struggled a lot with her, but I redrew her 3 times before I got her hair right. It was just the way that the curls worked, just weren't working with the tightness of everything because I was doing it to such a small scale, and I really do like working at a small scale. I feel like I'm really in control of everything. The scaling was also an issue, and I think I'm going to try to work on other ways to figure out my scaling. Probably setting up a grid, maybe just having a set dimensions that I can't go out of. Yeah. Just because I do like how Clive is bigger than everyone else, and so is Zeke. But it's because they're older. I wish I had kept Forsyth and Python a little larger, because them in comparison to Silk and Faye are kind of the same size, and they're I would say way leaning into their 20s. Actually, now that I think about it, I think all of the ages of these characters are released because they were part of the data. I remember when this game was first data mined, I remember reading through all of the information that came out, and the age was listed for everyone. Clive, Fire Emblem. Shadows of Valentia is such a fun game. I think that it is just such a good adaptation. The assets are so clean, the UI is so well designed. It's some of the strongest, I think, but I think that the 3DS games had really strong user interface. And yeah, one of my favorite characters to draw in this entire series though was Mycen. Mycen is just huge. His armor is really big and it's really ornate and beautifully designed, and I love the purple color scheme that he has in the original. Or is it magenta? Yeah, it's kind of magenta, purpley-ish. It looks really cool with the gray. Um, it looks really cool with the gray. I'm thinking of how that would look like in metallic if it was actually like rendered in CGI. I think that the red in his armor works really well, just because it kind of like alludes to his ties to, spoiler alert, alludes to his ties to Emperor Rudolph and Rigel. So I love the magenta in Foles' hair. Also, I love the original names. At least the Japanese names. Arun. I love Quilf. 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 I'm trying. Quilf. Yeah, like that probably. Aleclaire. Glurb. Yeah. Matilda. One of the other things I did for this was to arrange everyone side by side and to write out their names. So yeah. Before I head out, I just want to say a few more things. There's a few illustrations here and there, just little doodles of other characters in Celica's army that I did, and they're based off of the NES sprites, and those will be coming for a different video, so keep your eyes out for that, and don't forget to have a great day, guys.